put our little, these supposedly, come on. Trying to get my, and I know this is a little bit earlier, but that's because Restream can be pesky. So I've decided just to start the show up a little bit live. Come on here. Now we'll stop our little sharing here. Troubles in Paradise, methodology of creationism. And the show proper will get going at the top of the hour. Oh, hello, fellow pheasants, Josiah. Hi, Josiah. Restream can be a little bit pesky, and so I decided I would be starting up earlier. Plus, I can also get prepped up. And Slade, come here. Hi, gang. You're back. Yeah. We'll be, as usual, dealing with the continuing saga of replacing Darwin and some stuff on standing for truth and hominid evolution that will be in the part 2 part of the show. I can now set up since Benelia, hi. Technically speaking, the show will begin at the top of the hour, so we'll have a normal operation in that. I've learned this trick from Nick Zentner, who starts his show like 15 minutes early. And he goes and chit-chats with people and checks stuff out and pours some coffee and does all sort of shtick. And then they begin the actual presentation at a fixed time. And that's actually not a bad operation to do. It won't add too much. It gives me a chance to set up the cute little commercial promo that can be in the middle of the show. There we go. Boop. That way I can have that all primed as well. Peter's wonderful little commercial there for the Rocks Were There book. So let me get that kind of set up. The old dog is attempting to learn new tricks. And there we go. That's over there. I got that set up. And then we can just have our little here. Boop, 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 boop. And we can see we've got and theoretically, come on. Oh, that's interesting. Side windows, didn't know about that. Okay. And yeah, there we go. That's what I wanted. Down in the lower corner, then, is the cute little promo that I can stick up in due course for the Rocks Were There once they actually get onto the show. And I'll just dither here for another few minutes. It's Thanksgiving Eve. Normally, I would be zipping to relatives, but because of all the COVID stuff, we're not doing that. And may I remind everyone to do that too. We've got an awful lot of people that are going to probably be spreading COVID inadvertently or vertently, and that's not good. There are a lot of little places in the country where there's limited hospital capacity. We have enough beds total in the United States for a giant surge of COVID for the moment. But if you're in a particular spot where you don't have beds, what are they going to FedEx you to an available bed? No, this is not a good thing. And plus, if you're a family that has lost loved ones from this, the idea, well, it's only a few percentage of people dying. No. So since we aren't getting any leadership from the won't admit he's lost president, we'll just have to continue doing this on our own and seeing how things are going as we slog through the season. Well, it's still uncertain what the situation will be in Christmas, another month, as to whether or not people will be able to get out a little bit better on this, but we'll see. At any rate, Zoom is going to be crowded to the gunnels tomorrow with lots of families Zooming, including moi. I reminded my niece that do Zoom, and she's done Zooms, so she's got a camera on her laptop. So we'll be seeing what's all going on here. 5 minutes or so to start up there. I will remind everybody in the trick that I always have trouble pointing the wrong direction. There we go. There. There. Boy, I'm backwards. Rocks Are There, and Evolution Slam Dunk, and the Paralogs of Phileas Fogg. The cute little trick that I learned from various people plugging their books where they have interviews on Zoom, and conveniently in the background somewhere is their products. Immediately behind me is the wall of compact discs that I'd collected over decades of classical music. Way up in the top would be Renaissance and Baroque, and it's working its way down into the classical and into the Romantics, early, middle, and late, and into the modernists and so forth. And then over on, see, always backwards. God, it's hard. There we go. Off there are some of the old DVDs, mysteries, and some comedies and other stuff. And way over there are pictures of the family, brothers, sisters, and all that, and including one on the lower left-hand corner, which is Geeky Me. Okay, computer, stop telling me to set up a thing that I don't want to deal with. That'll probably happen again. Okay, where are we? I got my little patron list up there. I got my notes for the show going up. Typically, it takes apparently about a day for Restream to post. So then as soon as I find that it's occurred online effectively, then I can go in and edit it. Or if somebody comments on it, sometimes I'll find out that it's posted successfully. Um, um, uh, After I'd done it before, I realized the thing, and then I find out it's actually officially online, and then I can copy the URLs into my record keeping, so I keep track of all that separately. Hello, Nana. Yes. In case latecomers, I started the show kind of early, putting my little opening intro blip, and to get the Rocks with their promo all set up, and all that kind of ahead of the hour before actually beginning on this. It's like this. Yeah, I have the same problem with pointing the wrong way on Zoom. Yes, it's pathetic that we have the problem on that. But it's very counterintuitive. I notice the same things as to whether or not the picture is inverted or not when I'm trying to use stage props like the Metrodons or something like that. It gets very awkward. No one has ever accused the old RJ of being Johnny on the spot in terms of all the graphic representation. So go F it. That's the way it is. Okay. Well, we're just about the end of the top of the hour, so we will officially begin at the actual program on here. Today's Evolution Hour 167. We're knee deep in biogeography in replacing Darwin. Nathaniel Jensen is a young Earth creationist whose book does not start out with a lot of that. Although eventually I know he cites just a little bit of creationism later on in the chapter. I'll be getting to that in due course weeks. But at the moment, we're still in the exciting world of generic biogeographical data. This early part of the chapter's footnotes are not to technical papers, but just to web links, so I'm not putting them up. But just basically say there's animals in Madagascar. Well, that's nice. And what he had, one that where he popped up on Hawaiian fauna. I mentioned last week about some of the Madagascar stuff. Here he's into Hawaii, and one of the things about Hawaii, of course, is an archipelago of islands out in the middle of nowhere, and so it's really a beautiful test laboratory of Darwinian evolutionary distribution because animals can't get there unless they can get there. No, a magical creator could make anything there on the islands. You could make animals as big as pigs easily on the Hawaiian Islands because pigs that have been brought there have gone hog wild. So why don't we find any of them endemic? Flies, apparently, Drosophila apparently got there early and colonized the space because like 70% of all the flies in the world species are in Hawaii. Come on, just that's install Windows 10 update. No, I don't want to do that. Let me get rid of that. Eesh. Stop that. Go away. This damn window. You do not want to restart. I haven't been able to update your device. Leave it in and plugged in. I don't want to update my device. Just go away. You're right in front of my window here. For God's sakes, how can I get rid of you? There, that got rid of it. They don't put a bloody X on there. Anyway, the source listing is still running at about one source per page. Jensen cleverly did not produce a bibliography or index, which makes it kind of cumbersome. But along the way with this Hawaiian archipelago thing, he made a claim that was really quite amazing, and I cannot confess to being the first to spot this. When Herman Mayes debated Jensen back in 2018, and I'll be putting eventually the link to the YouTube debate where you can follow all of that. Mayes noted that Jensen had claimed that there was a North American river otter that was endemic to Hawaii, which is news to the North American river otters that are not found in Hawaii at all. And it's revealing that in the book, this also popped up. And no source is offered for it. It's just stated. He has references in the bibliography for how big the Hawaiian Islands are and how many species there are, and even the comparative size of Rhode Island pops up. He's got references for that, but not for the actual animals involved. And so likewise, no for the claim that, quote, this tiny northeastern state has 20 native species of mammals, referring to Rhode Island. And the reason why, again, he doesn't offer a reference for that is possibly because it isn't true either. I looked up Wikipedia's list of New England mammals, and it has none of them endemic to Rhode Island, let alone 20. And there is apparently a beetle species that is endemic to Rhode Island, but that's not what he was claiming. So here again, we're seeing that at the source level, Jensen is perfectly capable of making a generic statement that he somehow got to think was true, but doesn't in fact bear out when you try to check up on the source materials, whether it's the otters or how many endemic species there are in Rhode Island. In fact, a landmass of any relatively small size, it would be surprising that if it's connected to a big landmass, it's, as Rhode Island is connected to the rest of North America, that it would be kind of surprising for you to find any endemic mammal unless it had a very narrow niche and had been, all of its relatives have been exterminated over the years or gone extinct. And it's really difficult to imagine that just from a practical argument. I'm getting a notification here, seems one of your streams having connections problems. Well, we'll find out whether or not that's going on. If anybody's indication of I'm glitching up on sound and that, let me know. Not that I'm going to be able to do anything about it, but nevertheless, I'll be aware of it and can maybe repeat stuff again. So long as we're still on the screen, good. So as well, I'll go ahead and put a notification up about our friendly Patreon people, just in case we glitch up on the screen again. I'd like to thank all the patrons for the project. It's a wonderful honor that all of you do, that you actually plump down real live money every month to keep the project going. And even though we're in a very tense time where things are dicey for an awful lot of people, the fact that there has not been a stampede of people canceling their Patreons is also an enormous honor. And I will also repeat that if anybody does have a financial glitch where they really can't afford whatever it is they're plumping onto the Patreon for me, I'll be sad, but nonetheless, I'll be perfectly understandable if you have to pull the plug on it. So anyway, we have our colleague level, Hendril, Eric Rowley, Speed of Sound, Cirrus, and Zeshi. Our researcher level, Travis Adams, Ian Chan, hi Ian Chan, Convert Me, Stephen Early, Eat Neil, James Fitzwater, History Minder, Ralph McFadden, Paula Gia, Benjamin Simpson, Sister Researchers, Duranku, Totus Rao, Christopher Johnson, friend level, Daniel, Steve Bauman, Geology Buff, who helps us a lot, Marigate Meadows, Insects Are Cool, Devin Miranda Reeves, Martin Nielsen, Paul the Skeptic, Buffalopogus, Bo Hobo, Rasmussen, Alex Stone, Paul Williams. This is an international group of people. They're all over the planet. It's just amazing. And then our legacy patrons, Jen, Jody, Mike, John, Keith, Andrew, Dyer, Yui, Mona, Ad, Daniel, Nanya, Stagel, Sun, Sky Stone, Ugly German, Truths, Everett, and Sewer, who were able to help at one point or another. I'm still going to thank you because you helped. And so there it goes. Lisa says 1 reference per page. When I was in college, we had to have 20 per page paper, and I'll have much more. Indeed, the 900 some odd pages of the rocks were there, has 4,500 sources. Evolution Slam Dunk, which is 500-ish pages, has 2,300 sources. So the source level we get, there will be, I think, some more technical literature popping along in there, but also of relevance is to find out what doesn't show up. And that was the case for Rupe and Sanford's The Contested Bones book, where the only way that you can find out what's not in it is to have a listing of what is in it. And that's why finding that reference bibliography and have an appropriate index is so important from a scholarly work, but not so much if you're a creationist who only wants to look sciencey. So they have the references buried in the notes, and it looks all official and wonderful, and it looks sciencey, but it's making it as hard as possible for somebody to track down whether or not the arguments they're making are actually valid. And there you go. So we've got our little brief reference then to our discussion of Hawaiian fauna, and then we'll also bring up the Standing for Truth saga that pops up. For those of you who aren't aware of Standing for Truth, I debated him a couple times, and once on whether or not there were dinosaurs and human beings. That was kind of an eccentric one. He's very much a young Earth creationist groupie who is apparently a used car salesman, as far as somebody has been able to determine. And I'll make some jokes of that if you wish. But all he is a secondary parasite who copies arguments from Nathaniel Jensen and John Sanford and Jeffrey Tompkins and the various stuff that they put up in Answers in Genesis and various creationist papers. And he wants to give the impression, oh, they're so wonderful in science and it's so magnificent. Um, uh, Erica, aka Gutsick Gibbon, and Dan Stern Cardinale, among others, have been standing on a lot of these issues in relation to human evolution and genetics. And they do a way big whiz bang job of it because Erica is a paleoanthropology student, and Dan Stern Cardinale is a college professor in genetics. So this is not some unusual phenomenon for them. But in the case of Standing for Truth, this particular thing was called to my attention. It was a 2-hour and 25-minute video that was responding to Erica on hominid evolution, and particularly claiming about Australopithecus sediba and its potential place. And all the ammo that was being fired was the same as Rupe and Sanford's 2017 book. And so I'll be putting up a link to Standing for Truth's video. There's a bit from Brian Naish. It was actually a very informative National Geographic blog point on it in 2013 that's available. I'll be putting that up. That was one that Rupe had drawn off of. About an hour and 24 minutes in, the video alluded to Homo Habilis falsified as human. Rather, humans ate them! Exclamation mark. Which Standing for Truth played that video through bit by bit by bit, but apparently the whole bloody thing. And what is funky is I can't find it anywhere as an independent video anywhere on YouTube. So it might be in a context that's not publicly accessible, but at any rate, you get to see functionally the whole bloody thing. And after that extensive secondary quote squib, he then turned to channeling more Rupe and Sanford, because Rupe and Sanford put up a blurb about their book called New Developments, and I'll be putting a link up to that. It runs about 10 or 11 pages of basically making new claims. Well, la-di-da, Standing for Truth copies some of the new claims. So he's continuing with the world of parasitical citation. It was one of which was involving a 2018 paper by Trinkhaus on an abundance of developmental anomalies and abnormalities in Pleistocene people, which is fortunately proceeding to the National Academy of Sciences, so it's open access. Aha! And Standing seems to be under the impression that finding various genetic anomalies that indicate population size and interbreeding issues and the like in relatively recent human populations somehow validates the degeneration since the flood, and also the distribution of like Neanderthals that had been around for 500,000 years. No, that doesn't do that. And nothing in the Trinkhaus paper actually supports all of that. Although Standing for Truth promised his capacity to address such content, quote, sentence by sentence, unquote. He certainly didn't do that in that 2 hour and 20-minute video, and I don't anticipate he ever will. Standing has kind of gotten into a bollocks as an awful lot of the people that he wants to engage with on YouTube basically don't want to waste any more time on him. He's a secondary fellow, and why bother? And so he kind of fumes about that. So they produce these long. They have a brain trust, as it's called, which is a running joke among Erica and Dan and Colton and all the rest on our side in our little Twitter chats and stuff on it. And we'll be going into they go into that, and we go into that in our various discussions of it. And every once in a while, then, as was this example, was one that was sufficiently peculiar that it's worthy of kind of commenting on. In the Latin, oh, there's that stupid menu again. I don't want to see you again. Stop that. Computer apparently didn't think I'd finished up some stupid little connection, and it keeps on reminding me of it. After he went through copying stuff out of contested bones as new developments, he did bring up some actually genuinely newer material. And one of them was a 2019 paper on temporal evidence shows Australopithecus sediba is unlikely to be the ancestor of Homo. Dun, dun, dun. Standing just pounced on that. And he burbled how the sediba and others coexisted with humans, and how at 19 minutes and 27 minutes in, he said, sediba being in the direct line of the Homo genus has actually been thoroughly falsified, and that it is just a dead end. Well, not quite so easy on this. And I'll be putting a link up to the Do and Alem Seged paper, because it's open access, fortunately, at Science Magazine. It's one of their Science Advances, I think it's called. And what the paper actually stated was, quote, these results suggest it is highly unlikely that A. sediba is ancestral to Homo, and the most viable candidate ancestral species remains Australopithecus afarensis, unquote. So what they're saying is not that anything physical about sediba rules it out as an ancestor, that it's just as plausible an ancestor as Australopithecus afarensis. It's only that because it exists far enough down the road that it doesn't seem to be logical that it would be an ancestral form, but just a coexisting form. But that's the argument that they were making. Well, the problem is that sediba is only known from a very narrow horizon. It's only known from a single temporal spot 1.977 million years ago, which is 800,000 years before the only known earliest Homo specimen, 2.8 million. And so you've got a seeming temporal problem here. The difficulty is that other people have pointed out that, is it likely that this is the only range of that organism? And so there's another paper that that they had cited in this, Robinson from 2018, which I'll be putting a link up to, that argued critically that the temporal issue was not a problem. And surprise, Standing for Truth doesn't discuss that. And surprise, neither does obviously Rupe and Sanford, because it doesn't fit their paradigm. Standing for Truth at that point in his video went on about the Tower of Babel, which is a side issue altogether, and also not a thing. So that would make it another topic. And at that, we can move on from there. Let me, while I've got it still pumped up here, we are at 14 minutes after the hour. Let me put up the, let me see, yep, switch over there and put up our commercial. Theoretically, there would be music running over this, but it doesn't show up on the feed out, and that was the case with all these others. So thank you, Peter, for putting up this nice commercial for our book. Jackson Wheats and the rocks were there. As always, there will be links to the rocks were there and evolution sunk in the video information for each one of the videos. And we're very proud of the work. It's a comprehensive breakdown of answers in Genesis and the silliness of that. And As noted, it has something in the neighborhood of 4,500 sources. It's not a tiny work, and it's just volume one. When we began the work, it quickly expanded to the point where we had such a substantial amount of source material that I realized, this thing is probably going to be too big for one volume. And as it was, what we pared it down to, splitting it in half, just barely fit in the maximum size that you can do at a CreateSpace book. And the second volume will probably be very, very similar to that. Holiday gift buying season. If you want to annoy your creationist friends or delight your science reading ones, get Evolution Slam Dunk and the rocks were there. And there's also the Paralogs of Phileas Fogg out there for your fiction reading bunch. History, mystery, science fiction, flying machines, electric guns, submarines, and whatever it is that's in the box in Chicago. I mean, really, you got to have that to read over the holidays into the new year. And I'm also most of the way through the second volume in the series because I love the characters so much. I've just gone on and I'm going to make a whole series of these novels. And the second one in the series, Under the Southern Double Cross, should be done in time to come out sometime next year. So between that next year and volume 2 on the rocks were there, which Jackson and I will be diving into in the vengeance come the new year, once he's through with his school tests and all that kind of stuff. And I've been amassing information. It'll also include a bunch of allusions to the ongoing Acts and Facts from Institute for Creation Research, which I get freebie from them, and so that will be included. There'll be marvelous stuff on geological material and the origin of vertebrates and tetrapods, much more on human evolution. There'll be cosmology things. There'll be stuff on the origin of the creation myth and the Bible flood story and the relation to Mesopotamian flood tales and things. And there's just a juicy amount of stuff that will make a fully contained book, plus a reprise chapter that will fill you in on stuff that's occurred since the first book appeared that's relevant to the subject matter that we brought up in the first book. So it should be a pretty good little operation going on there. And we've even got a few books farther down the line scheduled to co-write. So we're going to be busy. There's no doubt about it. We'll keep on going on it. But at the very least, we want each one of the books that does come out to be thoroughly researched, as up to date as possible, accurate and comprehensive, so that if you come into the field of like, who are creationists? What do they think? You'll get up to speed on the skivvy, and it won't be just talking about creationism from decades ago. No, it's current material and the kind of stuff that you'll be encountering on YouTube and other areas. Because one of the lessons of the source methods approach is you want to keep up with your opponents, or better yet, stay ahead of your opponents. So the idea is that you shouldn't have to be playing catch up. If you want to criticize them, you should be aware of their game, know what their arguments are, know what their latest material is. And that way you can even measure, when I'm dealing with Kent Hovind, I'm dealing with somebody who is way behind the curve on creationism. Most of the people that I encounter on Twitter and social media who are creationists don't really know much about modern creationism. They're not reading Answers in Genesis, their technical literature coming from that venue in Institute for Creation Research. And so they don't know what has moved on about speciation and whether natural selection is real and what is the nature of plate tectonics and where are they on accounting for the heat problem and accelerated radioactive decay and all of that stuff. If all